Isn't it interesting that we get a manual with any appliance we buy, yet we're completely on our own when it comes to raising children? Most caregivers take their childhood experience and add in their beliefs to create their best guess on what should be in their discipline toolbox. Sometimes both parents can't even agree on those discipline tools, and that makes it even more difficult for family life and challenging. The first step to more effective parenting is to understand that raising children today is far more challenging than it was when we ourselves were children. The world is moving much faster, and because of this, parents have less time with their kids. The children can sense it, and it causes them to demonstrate their frustration quicker with more intensity. Another factor is that back when we were young, the entire world seemed to discipline the same way. The adults around us all believed that they should raise compliant children, and that's what we did. We complied. Today, that blanket belief system on discipline is gone, and there are more parenting styles and methods than we can keep track of. The result is more frustration for the caregiver as well as the child. The first step in making change at home is to examine what is in our discipline toolbox and decide if it needs a little modernization. So when children act out and misbehave, and we find ourselves as parents and teachers, one of the things we do is we go to our discipline toolbox, and we pull something out to use on our children. So for the benefit of this exercise, I just want to show you what some of the discipline tools tend to be like that parents and caregivers of all sorts pull out of their discipline toolbox. So one of the first things that I find that caregivers pull out is the old guilt card, right? And so you may hear parents saying things like, do you know how many hours mommy had to work to earn the money to buy that dress for you, and look what you did to it? Or we might even hear them say something like, do you know how hard I had to work on that meal for dinner, and you won't eat your food? How about something like, what would Grandpa say if he was here to see you doing that? And so as adults, we just pull that guilt, and we play that card. And why? Because our parents did it to us. We're pulling from an old discipline toolbox in a modern day age, and it doesn't make sense. So guilt was designed back when we were young because our parents actually believed that if they constantly remind us of what we don't do well, we'll get better. We know today, we have the proof that has pointed out that the more that we are confronted with what we don't do well, we do more of that. Instead, we should be raising children using encouragement, but yet no one has really shown us how to do that. Another tool that parents tend to pull out of their discipline toolbox, I like to call the look. You know, when your child has done something wrong, and we just turn that look right on them. And we use that stare, that dreadful stare, to make them stop doing whatever it was that they're doing that's annoying us, or to do something that they didn't follow through and comply with us. And that look of fear is to motivate our child, you better do what I want you to do. Why? Once again, we're pulling from an old discipline toolbox in a modern age with a challenging child. Another thing that parents tend to pull out of their discipline toolbox, in fact, this is used more in modern times than it ever was when we were children, is the magic wand. This is used by the parents who do everything for their child. They pull that magic wand out, and they take care of everything. They live in a mode of efficiency, or because they feel so guilty for not having much time with their children, it's just easier to do it for the child, right? So you hear parents say things like, honey, you go to bed and I'll finish your homework. Or, you need some more money, sweetheart? Let me give you money for that. And the object is we're doing too much for our children. We're raising children who are not able to do things on their own. And they become so dependent on the parent, and they love it when a mommy or daddy does things for them. What person, whether a child or adult, wouldn't want someone taking care of everything in your life? And then we get frustrated because the children won't do things on their own. But we need to stop doing everything for them. Stop using the magic wand and raise capable children, not compliant children, capable. So I think we can all agree that that's not a good tool to use. Well, I've got to use something. My child is acting out and misbehaving. So then I pull out the trusty old timeout card. This always works, right? Timeout was designed by the experts to be used in only one situation, and that situation is when a child is out of control. That means the child can no longer hear what you're saying. They cannot cognitively process what you're speaking to them about as an adult or a parent. So the expert psychologist years ago said timeout should be a place that is designated in advance by the parents and set up in advance so that the child will learn to go there on their own and calm themselves down. The problem is it's being used as arbitrary punishment. And the parent says things like, that's it, you go to your timeout right now and you think about what you did. Do we really think the child is sitting in timeout going, what will I do differently next time? They're not. They're thinking about how angry they are, how they're going to get even, or how cool it was to get new attention just by not behaving. So this is actually causing more problems than it's solving. Well, I've got to do something. So here it becomes the discipline of the new age. Now, first of all, don't get me wrong. Many children who are diagnosed with ADD, ADHD truly need their medication. The problem is a lot of children are getting thrown into the same bucket because some adults are realizing that, you know what, Johnny's a little challenging to care for, but if I medicate him, he's so much easier. So some children are slipping under that wire, and they don't need the medication. Another thing that we tend to use in discipline is the paddle, the spanking. Although we have agencies around now to protect children, like the Department of Children and Families, to keep this kind of thing from being used on children. But you know what? In a heated moment, when you're feeling crazy, you haven't been taking care of yourself, and no one's watching, there's no telling what a parent may pull out to use on the child. But we know we can't use this. Another discipline tool, yelling and screaming. How many times do I have to tell you to get in there and pick up those? You stop hitting your brother right. If I see you do that one more time, now you knock it off. Young man, get over here. How about we always had the special name that our parents called us, right, when we knew we were in trouble? The formal name. My name was William. When I heard William, I knew it was bad. I knew it was bad. So the problem is we're yelling and screaming at our kids. In fact, some parents are kind of funny because they'll say, oh, we don't spank. But we do yell and holler and scream. And there are some experts that are now coming out to say this is far more dangerous than spanking. Yelling and screaming damages the human spirit, the part of the child you cannot see. And that's the strength, the human spirit, the flame that needs to be burning alive when the child becomes an adult. So this is no longer an effective tool either. Another tool that parents like to use, because they either can't or won't use any of those, is what I call bribery. If you're good at Grandma's house, you'll get an extra ice cream cone when we come home. Oh, if you stop hitting your sister, you'll get one of those new cupcakes that Mommy brought home from the store. Oh, I'll give you $1 for every A on your report card. This is bribery. This is training children to do things because you want them to do it. And it's actually created an external focus. An external focus. The child is no longer concentrating on what I can do or should do. It's all about the reward. And guess what happens if you train your child this way and the reward doesn't exist anymore? They're out of control. What are you going to do next? The problem also is these children grow up to become employees who only work when the boss is in the office. They only work when there's incentive, when there's something in it for them. So over the rest of this program, what I'm going to help you understand is we need to stop pulling tools from the old discipline toolbox. And it's now time to modernize. It's about time that we begin to rebuild our discipline toolbox and make sure we have things in there that'll work for today's challenging child. I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to start showing you some methods that you can start pulling out of your modern discipline toolbox.